You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality art, interviews, music and hot topics. Hosted by Dini Mussolini and co-hosted by Banditi. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at least 1 hour after each show at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. We welcome all. Enjoy the show.
It feels so good to be back with you guys once again. One time for my people that are indigos, starseeds, and crystallines. And 2 times for my people who are vegans. We are averaging over 34,000 plus listeners and over 888,000 downloads worldwide. And we've been at this thing for 3 solid years. I appreciate all you guys who have been rocking with the kid on this journey, and we are still growing, baby. It is all because of you guys, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, art, literature, movies, and research in every aspect, and we want to allow you that opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on the show, from Grammy award-winning artists to nominees to actors, comedians, technology geniuses, from visual artists, from authors to professors and aliens, or people who think they're aliens. It doesn't matter who you are or what walk of life that you come from. Come on the show and talk to us. So check it out. To book your interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at theradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. I am passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do, and together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people that should hear it. So let's create something incredible. And with that, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Vigilantes Radio. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in and being a part of the audience family. Every now and then we may do a pre-recorded show, and this one is a pre-recorded show, so there's no live audience. But we always have to do this. If you like information on how to call in, ask questions, or speak to our guests, you can always dial 701-801-9813 or hop in the mix directly from my website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com, and scroll over to the Vigilantes Radio tab and slap that go live button, and you'll be right here in the mix with all of us. And there's also a chat room feature where you can send me messages to ask the guests if you don't feel like picking up the phone to call, because we are in the day and age of the text message, and that's cool. We got all the bases covered. Feel free to hit me on Facebook Messenger, Google Hangouts. I'm there. Send your questions. All right. And as always, all episodes are available for free download at least an hour after the show ends. And you can grab it from our server over at Spreaker.com/Only One Media Group, or iTunes, or the app we have called Podcast Addict. That's right, 24/7, 365 days. You can download us or just stream us, and we are right in your ear hole. How convenient is that? Carry us around in your pocket, your purse, your man purse, your backpack, whatever you're toting these days. So we made it accessible. Or the old-fashioned way by going to our website, which again is onlyonemediagroup.com, and that goes for every single show that we've ever aired. Tonight's episode is the Izzy Church interview, and I'm your host, Dini Mussolini. Not many announcements. Of course, you know we'll be out in Hollywood March the 3rd through the 6th. So if you're out there at Salitas, we'd love to meet you and greet you. So there is something you've been telling yourself forever you cannot accomplish. Today, I want you to prove yourself wrong. A new moment has arrived, and past assumptions no longer have to hold you back. Decide to be free of those limitations you've imposed on yourself. See now that every big and little thing can inspire you, support you, motivate, encourage, and empower you. Today, take the first step toward the accomplishment you've been putting off for so long. Every past experience has prepared you for today, and you can now move forward in a new way. Feel the power of the momentum you've already established and point it in the direction that you choose. Push your expectations beyond where they have been. See possibilities you've never before imagined, and see yourself fulfilling them. Enjoy watching yourself do what you used to think you could not. Let the satisfaction of achievement energize you to achieve more. All right, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive deep into this interview tonight. Once again, this is the Izzy Church interview, and we have a faithful listener base, so I left the interview unlocked. Yep, unlocked to the public, so if you mosey on in here to sit in and listen on this great interview, feel free. All right, so I'd have to line up the many hats and talents that my guest tonight and I both wear and possess, side by side, to see who really do the most. You say, how awesome is that? Let me fill in the blank for you. It's extremely awesome. She is phenomenal, and old Dini Mussolini is no match for her superpowers and the talent field. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Izzy Church, the author of a new children's book titled Dr-Pookie and the Case of His Missing Thought. A woman that is truly dedicated and a passionate fan of being innovative. And as you guys know, sometimes I do get personal on the show. Not long ago, my childhood nickname was Pookie. Yeah, imagine a guy like me named Pookie. Well, it happened, but that time was over. Anyway, back to the interview. Beginning this interview, I knew very little about Izzy Church and her literary work. Having published some works before, but through researching and now writing out this monologue, well, you'll see, you're really going to get to know her well through this interview. And I might have finally found my ideal match for conversation. And hopefully, Izzy has nothing left off the page in this interview. All questions will be answered with genuine thought, and the effort put into these answers will clearly be heard. After learning all about her, I think it will be just as clear to you as it has become to me. Izzy Church is just the type to ever put in less than 100% of her heart and soul into anything she puts her mind to. In the writing, she found a way to get the most out of the equipment that she uses to put forth an incredible result, which, ideally speaking, are her thoughts from her brain. And that's all you really needed, right? Yeah, I believe so. And we'll also see if she employed the same strategy when tackling this interview. So for you fans of Izzy Church, there's an incredible amount of information and thoughts from Izzy on not only her books, hardware, and software, but also her life intersects with this passion for creation and how these words come to life or find their end. And guess what? For you new fans of Izzy Church, meaning my audience, that's right, you guessed it, there's an incredible amount of information at every turn for you, just like there was for me. So, I'd like to thank Izzy Church one more from myself personally for truly putting something out there in the universe that children all over the globe will want to read. So with that being said, let's invite Izzy onto the show. Welcome, Izzy. How are you?
Hello. Hi. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
That was
see if I could turn you up a little bit here. I'll say it one more time.
I said that was a great introduction.
Thank you. So, yeah, I have to turn you up a little bit. I could barely hear you, but I got you now, loud and clear. All right, Izzy, shall we begin?
Yeah.
All right, first things first, I want to know about this book you've written. And then let's chat about the reason you went from writing somewhat of a bit of slapstick comedy and angry movie guy to a children's mystery book, Dr. Pookie and the Case of His Missing Thought.
Okay. So Dr. Pookie is a children's book, as you said. You know what? I wrote a funny little rhyme, or almost like a nursery rhyme, about losing your thought, and it just kept popping into my mind. And this happened for over a year. I had it sort of saved in my notes and in my phone, and I kept going back to it and thinking it was pretty funny. And eventually, after you read something enough times, you kind of start to think that, hey, maybe this could be turned into something. And I first was going to just do a picture book, and when I sat down to write it, I guess maybe because I had been thinking about it for so long, it's sort of like, you plant a seed, and if you keep revisiting it, you're sort of subconscious in some ways growing it. So when I sat down to write it, I had originally thought, I'll just do a little, short children's book with some images, and then it turned into a 103-page chapter book by the time I was finished. So I guess I thought about it for a while there, and somehow it was ready to be said in a bigger storytelling method than I had originally thought. So, and I guess your other question was how I changed from deciding to do Angry Movie Guy and moving into a children's book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really enjoyed writing Angry Movie Guy. Angry Movie Guy is a novel, and yes, it has a lot of humor, and people describe some of it as slapstick. I don't know so much if I would describe it as slapstick, but I have been told that before. It's definitely humor, sarcasm, and there is probably a little bit of slapstick humor in there, but I don't think it was really like something that I gave an enormous amount of thought. I'm trying to switch genres. Now I've written comedy. It was a romantic comedy, and I'm all of a sudden trying to go in a different direction. It's not so much that I'm trying to go in a different direction. I'm working on a second novel right now. I've just had a lot of children's content that I've been developing for several years, and I had yet to release any of it. I'd been working on with other people, illustrating with other people, working on other projects with people, and kind of kept everything pretty low key. And it was just, I felt time for me to kind of to take my own path in the children's market, because I have a lot of stories I want to tell in the children's market, and you got to open the door. So, this is my first opening to the children's market, and I'm working on other things. I'm already working on a second Dr. Pookie book. So,
cool.
Yeah, and also I'm going to continue down the romantic comedy route as well. So, wasn't really a split. I still am. I'm kind of just sitting in two different writing. I'm wearing two different writing hats, I guess, now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you answered the call of the universe. You said you kept thinking about it until you just finally went from picture story to an actual story. So you definitely answered the call of the universe, knocking at, your inspiration there, telling you to do it. And you got to forgive me for the slapstick description. I know that was
That's
totally
okay.
wrong. That was a journalistic error, because now that you mention it, slapstick is kind of a thing of the past. And I think it was, like you said, more of a romantic comedy than slapstick.
Yeah, it's definitely a romantic comedy. It just said some of the humor in there. Some people choose to describe it that way. One reviewer, which is a decent review, I wasn't upset about it, mentioned that it was slapstick, and I actually appreciated the entire review. That just happened to be a part of it. And you know what? As long as people know that it's like romance and comedy, and you know they're going to have a good time reading it, that's the most important thing.
Right, definitely. So, about the book, Dr. Pookie, in the case of his missing thought, what are the key factors, especially about that book, that makes you identify with this genre out of all of the millions of other genres and subgenres out there?
Like I said, I had this little rhyme, and after letting it sit for quite some time, I was like, oh, you know what? I think Dr. Pookie, the name, first of all, just came to me, so it's interesting. I think it's funny that you said you were called Pookie? People called you Pookie, you said?
Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a good nickname. It's a good nickname. He's so the I don't know, the name came to me, and once the name started to kind of grow on me, I think the character started to sort of come alive. So Dr. Pookie was a bear, and at first I was going to stay in present day. Dr. Pookie was going to just have a little adventure about losing his thought. And then I decided if I was going to really want to explore these characters, a better way to explore them was to have Dr. Pookie as a wise old bear and kind of looking back on his youth as a, you know, young, impulsive and mischievous bear. And the, you know, shenanigans that he got into with his friends in the forest, his furry friends in the forest. And this would be a better way to kind of get to know lots of curious and funny animals, and also to be able to incorporate a lot of different themes and messages into the series. So this particular story got a lot of friendship. It's about friendship. It's about, you know, sticking to your guns, kind of, you know, that you can depend on your friends is a big part of it. Really, really depending on your friends. And that's probably one of the main themes in it. And really just kind of getting to know all the animals and their personalities and how they relate to Dr. Pookie now as an older wise bear with lots of fun stories to tell, and how they related to him when he was a young bear.
Okay, so I'm guessing here, but reading between the lines of your bio suggests that you've learned how to write and create all on your own, basically do it yourself. There's a ton that involved in writing the book or even books, especially the incredible stuff you're capable of. And that's no BS. So tell us a story here, Izzy. We like stories. I want to know about your progression through learning your craft. There's a little in that bio, but we want to know a little bit more. You must have had to teach yourself or have help, you know, learning some pretty intense procedures, styles, and programs to make this. And how did it all get to where it is today?
Okay, yeah. Well, I've been writing for a long time, storytelling for a while now, in different genres. And I switched between screenplay writing. That's kind of, I was really interested in film. And I started in film school and then ended up transferring into writing to film and television. And the whole time I was studying also in a theater. So I was in an acting conservatory. So I was really immersed in storytelling and how to embody it myself, as well as capture it in a camera and capture it in a screenplay. And eventually I started to move into other storytelling mediums and wanting to write plays and wanting to write songs and eventually then wanting to write books. And I think I've always been interested in writing a children's book. And I'm not really sure why I started with a novel, but it's just the way it sort of happened. And the children's book came after a lot of years of just illustrating a lot of stuff, and I didn't feel... I was actually working on another children's book a couple of years ago, and I set it aside. I had done quite a bit of work on it, and I set it aside, and then decided to go totally different story, come back to the drawing board with a totally new, different story, and tackled it from beginning to end. So, I don't know, it just, the illustration, me learning programs, I guess, like Photoshop and Illustrator, and, you know, that's, I guess, things you need to do when you're illustrating. And it took me some time I did a lot of freehand work at first. And so when I decided I was going to write a book, I had to kind of go from, I do a lot of stuff on paper and I paint and I draw, but now I need to bring that to the computer. So my initial book that I started a couple of years ago was all paper and hand drawing and ink. And then I said, okay, I kind of should get with the wave of now. And I started to learn Illustrator, and it took me a little while to kind of transpose my abilities on paper, the same way on Illustrator. So it's been a bit of a journey. Yeah, so but I'm happy now that I've conquered some of these programs, and I'm really able to work differently, and I can, do things on paper, put it on canvas, and then also put it into a children's book now. And that's a big accomplishment for me in my path of wanting to not only be able to write something, but also to illustrate it and not have to hand that off to somebody else to do. So it took a while. It took a while for me to get there, but I'm there now.
Definitely. All right. So tell us about why the mysteries of Dr. Pookie speak to you personally.
Why does it speak to me personally? You know what? It is a mystery, but it's really a comedy. It's like really? A mystery comedy. Yeah, I mean, he's looking for his missing thought. It's more comedy than it is. It's a mystery because how does one lose his thought? And all the animals in the forest are like, this is incredible. How could that happen? Like, how does that even happen? Well, things just don't disappear, especially your thoughts. They have to be here somewhere. And, they treat it like a thing, and they're like looking in his head and with like a magnifying glass, trying to find the thought, digging through drawers, searching under things. It's got to be here somewhere. And all the other animals get involved. And so while it is a mystery and they are really searching for his thought, it's just comedic because, they're animals and they're totally confused on how Dr. Pookie could lose his thought, and they all get involved in helping him find it, and they all have their own agenda to help him, which is kind of humorous. Like the sly fox who never loses his cool, his name is Nico, has an agenda. Yeah, I can help you find it, but, it's going to cost you. What is he going to get out of it, right? And Squirm, the slow-moving squirrel, and his son Sam, they have their own agenda. They're like, yeah, I could probably, help you as well, but, Squirm's got a bad back, and maybe you could shake this tree for me and get some nuts, have some nuts fall out of the tree so that my son could eat tonight. So all the animals are invested in helping him find his thought, but you see they all are like, they're still going about their daily lives, and they want to help him, but maybe, we can help each other, so that's a good lesson too in it. It's like helping each other along the way, and also just seeing that sometimes people say they're going to help you, but they don't always help you. And you get to see how certain people, they don't always have the best intentions. But, Dr. Pookie is still friends with them years later. So, maybe that you can overcome some of these smaller things when you really want to be friends with someone. So
definitely. Okay, that's cool, interesting. And you've been writing for a while now, so tell us about your mindset and staying authentic, but different from the rest, of course. How do you achieve that balance without sounding or writing like you're trying too hard?
I think a lot of times maybe it's the approach to writing. I know everybody has a different approach, and I don't know if one approach is better than another one. But I know there's a lot of ways that you can. People a lot of times feel like they have writer's block. I hear that a lot. Or how do you generate ideas? I can't come up with a really good idea to create a whole book. I wish I could. And like I said, this started out as like 3 or 4 little lines and turned into 103 pages. So I think if it's something that intrigues you enough, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to know the full story when you start. And I think you stay authentic when you discover it as you go. Like I don't know what I'm writing a lot of times. It's just that something is very funny to me or intriguing to me enough to like keep sitting down in front of the paper and writing. And eventually it feels like it's writing itself sometimes to me.
Okay.
So that's me and my process. And everybody has their own. And I don't know if I feel authentic because I myself am discovering it. It's not like I'm plot pointing it out. It's like, oh, this is going to happen here, and how do I get from A to B to C to D? And not that there's anything wrong with that. Certainly that's a lot of people take that approach. I prefer to do it like kind of like, you wake up every day and you have a general idea of what's going to happen, but you don't really know. Anything could happen.
Yeah, that's true.
I try to approach the page like that. Anything could happen. These are maybe some things that I think might happen. I could see these things happen, but I'm open to letting other things occur because that's where the surprise is. And that's, I think, where you stay authentic in your writing, too. Because if it's surprising you, you're surprising the reader.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. What I also like to see was that you weren't the author type to simply go for 500 pages or more. And I know this is a children's book, but overall, that's not always easy for an author to achieve. It's almost like an art form itself to know when to cut yourself off creatively. How do you know when enough is enough? When the story is fully told?
I guess that comes with practice. I would say for Angry Movie Guy, I definitely cut a lot of things. I cut a lot of scenes out of there. It would have been a lot longer, and I edited and rewrote and edited way more than I can even count. There was so much editing. The story was always there, but then once you cut out all the things that you're like, that's not necessary, Is this really getting me forward? Are we really going to where we need to go? Then you're like, oh, now it's like really slim, and do we need to add in more? Did I cut too much out? So is there more to like the other parts of the story that you're missing? So I think it's a balancing act. You have to kind of have people that you trust looking at it and letting you know if, you're going off on a tangent. That they will be like, I'm not sure where you're going with that. And then if you really feel like it's supposed to be there, then you say, no, you know what, this is supposed to be there, and you kind of just have to stick to your guns and be like, I see why you're saying that, but I disagree with you, and we're going to leave that there, So I think, it's a process, and you could go back and forth, and I probably, for a children's book, it's okay length, it's like it's a 5th and 6th grader. I call it a bridge book. So children who are 6 and 7 years old, some of the words might be more challenging for them. And I put a glossary in the back, but they might have an older brother or sister or a parent who wants to read with them. Yeah, so that can be helpful for them. And then, 5th and 6th graders, it's perfect for them. It's like they're gonna breeze through it. They're gonna feel great about themselves because they sat down and they can read it in like a couple of sittings, or maybe even one sitting, because it's fun. It's a light read. It's fun, and you feel like, wow, I got that done. I came home after school. I read a whole book, or I read a book in a week. Which is good for kids. It's good for their morale to know that they're accomplishing these things on their own or with the help of a brother or sister or a parent. So I think it's a good length. I mean, it could have been a little longer. I could have gone 130 because I think kids chapters books are kind of range between like 89 to 130 pages. But I thought, we were okay with 103, and I didn't really need to look for more story. There might have been more story there that I could look for, but because it's going to be a series, I said, no, I think we're good. They got enough. The story is good, and this is the first book in the series. So since it's the first book in the series, they're going to come back, and they'll get to hear more. It's kind of like each book is a chapter in Dr. Pookie's memoirs, because now he's older and he's looking back on his life. And in this particular book, he threw a big party and all the animals came over to his house. And after they danced their fuzzy little tails off, he reads a story from his memoirs. And this is the story, and so they kind of go back in time to when he was a young bear, and all his now older animals and friends are like reliving their youth through this story. So it's a lot for, I think, if you're going to keep coming back to these, it's just enough for them to be like, oh, I like them. I would go back to read more about these animals. And eventually maybe, a book will come out with 3 or 4 books in a book, right? I'll put 3 or 4 stories in one actual book, and they can get and go from there, but I'm not there yet. Just started the second book in the series, so.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look forward to the second book when it comes out. Many children's book authors have a signature style or something that ties the writing and to their body of work, making it identifiable to their style. Would you say there's something like that in your catalog of books being authored by you?
I would like to think so. I think that I try to tell an original story. I think there's a lot of for me, I think there's a lot of the same thing out there. People are generating, they're telling the same story in a different way. And I think that I really try to take a different angle or a different approach. Who would think about writing a full book on losing your thought? I mean, we all have our, thoughts escape us, right, throughout the day. Even kids. The thing is, kids can relate to that. Well, I was thinking about something, and I totally forgot what I was thinking about. Right? Parents can relate to that. But the thought of going to search for the thought you lost is a whole other thing. And that, I think, is just, it's unique, it's whimsical, and and hopefully it's entertaining, and I try to bring something a little different to my writing. And I write a lot of different things, so I try to create a unique voice. I'm still growing as a writer. It's only my second book. I've written a couple screenplays as well, but every single day I work with other writers. They have their own content, and I script doctor, and I edit, and I'm always trying to improve my own writing, and listening to other people and how they write. So I think I have a lot of interesting thoughts that not a lot of other people have, or I relate to an interesting group of people on different levels, and so I hope I bring some of my own not in the box sort of thinking to some of my writing.
Definitely.
Or at least I'm trying to.
Yeah. All right. So when you talk about actively engaging your fans or readers, how do you go about this, especially since your audience meant mostly, made of children? More importantly, how do you feel that it's important to stay connected with your fan base? Are you out at the libraries reading the book to kids? Or are you doing book signings and stuff of that nature?
Well, the book officially came out today. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I will be doing that. I'm in conversations with the Ethical Center here in New York, and I'm planning on doing a reading there, and at the Manhattan Library, the Brooklyn Library. I'll be visiting a lot of children's bookstores in Manhattan as well to do some readings. And I'll be posting that on the dr-pookie.com website, and it'll talk about any readings that are happening and any blogs. Right now I'm doing my interview with you and working with a lot of different virtual blog sources who have, all different ages. So, while I can't always say that the person that's listening is a kid who's like, Mommy, we got to go get this book right now, but it may be, an uncle or aunt who might have a niece or a nephew who says, hey, Easter's around the corner, somebody's birthday, let's check out this new author. Mm-hmm. So you just have to keep trying to plug at it in every direction. It's again, it's not like I'm not a teacher, so I'm not surrounded by children every day. So I have to make my way to them. I do stuff in the art, so I often take schools out. I show school kids art in the city, and I talk about art. And so I have an opportunity to introduce my children's book that way. And because I meet a lot of people through the art world that I work in, there's always teachers or someone who works in the library, and I get introduced to a lot of people. So I just have to keep my eyes and ears open, and it's a process. And then you just have to keep, up with the social media and hope that, as you keep doing it, that people will see it, they'll want it, they'll share it with their friends, and, you know, hopefully then the rest will be history, right? Then you're like, yeah, I remember when. You know, so it's a lot of luck, right? But you got to keep looking for your fans, and you know, I'm learning a lot about the industry, and lots of ways that you can continuously try to reach out to fan base, children and librarians and wholesalers, you know, people who distribute your book, and finding ways to entice them. So I stay on top of the industry, the publishing industry, as much as I possibly can. I'm juggling quite a few things, so I do my best to stay involved in the industry, and I think it all helps, you know.
Right. Okay. Are you finding that to be tough or difficult at this stage?
Well, this is my first children's book, so I'm sure, like, my novel, it came out last year, February of 2016. Mm-hmm. So a year later now with my children's book. And my experience in putting out a novel is, one, obviously I'm around adults all the time, so at least, you know, you're explaining that you wrote a novel, you know, and it's at least maybe a little easier to get some of those readings at networking events and stuff like that. Although I'm just now approaching a lot of those readings for the children's book, and I already do have a couple lined up, and so I don't want to say it's harder, because knock on wood, I haven't had a leap over anything yet, but I'm not tackling it. I'm not like going towards the industry with this like, oh, I'm going to find every bookstore. Mm-hmm. It's like I know what I did last time with my novel. I'm doing that again because it felt good to do it. It was a learning process. It's like riding a bike, get back on the same bike, do the same things, try some new things. And that's all I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the novel, and I'm going to try some new things with this. And when I go in to talk with a lot of these people, if the bookstore is not just children oriented, I'll also have an opportunity to actually speak about my novel as well, which I guess, you know, if you have two things you can offer a store, they might be interested in carrying one or both, hopefully. So, yeah, and, you know, the more content you create, the more your name is out there. You know, I do the art, so my name gets out with the art. And the more your name is out there, people research you. Maybe they research you for one thing, then they see, oh, she's written a children's book. Oh, she's written a novel. Oh, she's doing this, you know, and people become intrigued. So, I guess it's worked for other people. Why not me?
Right.
Right. So.
Definitely. So, when can we expect the second installment of Dr. Pookie?
That is a good question. I am probably not going to be able to answer that this evening. I just actually started on the second book and didn't know that I was starting on it. I drew a character and I kept looking at her and I kept looking at this character and I finished it, and I named her Miss Honeybees, and I thought she was really adorable, and I thought, oh, maybe she's going to be in her own, she's going to tell a story about bees, and talk about the state of endangered bees right now, and it's going to be this whole other thing. And then I thought about it more, and I thought, oh, no, she's going to tell a story with Dr. Pookie. So the second book, the working title right now is called Dr. Pookie and the Incredible Miss Honeybees. And I really just started working on it. It's very similar to the last thing. It's like I didn't know. It was a surprise to me. I didn't think that they were going to go together right now. I'm on like the first chapter. And that's all I've really finished, and I'm just still exploring what the story is. But it's cute so far. The little bit that I have, I'll probably try to find some ways to maybe give away the first chapter at some point of the second book when I have it really a little more thought out. And I find that things like that are good ways to keep people involved in when you're writing. So, maybe in a couple of months when it starts to die down a little bit, I'll say, hey guys, hot off the press, I got another chapter. So if you order the book now, you get the first chapter of the second book, and people can, let me know their thoughts. Right. So, okay. And I guess these are all tricks, right? They always tell you, I don't know if they're tricks, but it's like your fans, if they really are interested in what you're writing, they want to be there for the next one, and they want to be the first people involved in the next, and maybe they have something really good to offer. I get advice from all sorts of people, and you never know who's got some genius idea that's going to be just help you finish your next book,
That's right.
So.
And we know your book came out today, so you have a pretty, ride, a pretty good promo ride ahead of you. But we thought we'd just ask to see maybe if we can get a hint of when the new book comes out. I know you have a lot of things to do, incredible things to do, in preparation of getting the word out about the first installment. And I always have to ask independent authors and artists about management when I see that they have representation. Do you have any, or are you all on this mission alone?
Well, my book is being distributed through Small Press United, and so it's a really pretty big distributor, and they distribute a lot of publishers' books. So that they really liked my first book, Angry Movie Guy. It's being published through Square Monkey Publishing and distributed through Small Press United, but Small Press United really fell in love with Angry Movie Guy. So I was lucky that I already had that relationship, and I was able to approach them again with a second book. And so I'm not on it alone. No, I do have. They were helpful in a lot of things with this book. They, made suggestions and had me redo my cover like 5 times. So I was like, oh my goodness, which I wasn't expecting, but I'm really glad they did do it because I like it a lot better. And it made me think about things that, doing some illustrations inside is different than doing your cover. Right. And it really does require you to think differently. And they kept throwing out these very vague words to me, like, that I was like, wait, what? What do you want me to do? Because it was like, yeah, we want you to be, it's got to be whimsical, cutting edge, but like fit into sort of a standard, like it's like, look at these ones. It's got to fit into that, but at the same time be cutting edge and sort of, approaching it from a different angle. And I'm like, is that, that did not tell me anything.
Right.
So, But then when I hit it, they were like, yes, that's what we were talking about all along. And I'm like, oh, I see it now. I see what you're saying. And it was helpful. You know, they've been very, very helpful. And well, sometimes I was like, oh, I'm doing more. Oh, I'm doing more. This is, I didn't know I'd be redoing this right now. I'm happy I did. Like everything that had to be redone, re-edited, redrawn, rewritten, whatever. It was all necessary and helpful and great advice. Because it's my first children's book, you know, so there's a lot. It's not just like, oh, you've written your story. You know, there's okay, well, I think this chapter's too long. You know, and when you may not think about those things. Like those are some of the things. Oh, my chapter's too long. You need to cut down every single one of these chapters. Cut these chapters in half. You know. Right. Okay. So those are things that I learned, you know, along the way, which was helpful, and you know, will be great for my next book because I will know that going in. You know, it's like, oh, because of course I came from writing a novel, you know, but you're dealing with an adult reader who is like, can handle, you know, those extra few pages. Right. You know, whereas a kid, they need more of that. They want that gratification. They need to be shorter chapters. They need to be so that, you know, that they can take a break in between. And they still feel, you know, you want to read to the end of a chapter, most people. And they're like, when I get to the end of the chapter, I'll put the book down. But, you know, if the chapters are too long for the kids, then it becomes more challenging for them. So these are things I learned, you know, it's like, you know, and when you're writing for one genre and one demographic, or specifically the demographic, when you're writing for one demographic versus another, you might not switch into all of that thinking right away. So they were very helpful because that's what they do all the time, and they're like, no, and this, and it was good, and I felt good about it at the end. So they were very helpful, and it's a process. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and although a lot of times I do feel like I am on my own because there's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. It's like you're always having to do something to get people to pay attention to it. It's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for buying my book, and now can you please leave a review, you know? Yeah. And visit my website and leave a review on Amazon, leave a review on Goodreads, leave a review on NetGalley, and, you know, sending out promotional emails, and it's just a lot of stuff. So where I'm not alone, I feel like I'm doing a lot, no matter if I'm not alone, and it would be totally amazing if it was a little less on me and more, if I had a little more support. But I think a lot of artists in general feel that way, because the market is challenging. It's like, you know, we're fighting against, we're little fishes in a very large ocean, you know, all trying to swim upstream. And while there's a lot more opportunities for people, there's a lot more content. And that means you got readers looking in a million different directions. And how do you grab their attention?
Right.
And hold on to their attention, because their attention span is like pretty much non-existent. They want everything now. They want it instantaneously, and then they want to move on to the next thing. So it's challenging, and that's why usually, you know, these bigger companies, you know, they can hit the audience from all angles. Did you forget about me? You're not thinking about me? Well, I'm on a bus. I'm on a subway. I'm on a magazine. I'm in an article. I'm in a, You click on a website, there's an ad for it, and you're like bombarded by it, but you're definitely buying it, and you think you've hit the lottery in some way, but you just realize, it's like they've talked about it a zillion times. There's a million people talking about it to you, so it's challenging. It's challenging when that's what the market is, but you got to keep doing it if that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
If you want to do it, then you do what you can, and you keep making your presence known, and hopefully that noise will be listened to at some point. It won't be just like noise. People will finally hear you. They're like, oh, I've heard of her, or I've heard of that. So I guess that's all anyone can do if this is what they want to pursue, and they're not like a well-known, completely famous person in the industry.
Yeah. And you brought up an interesting point about how the ads are force-fed. And I kind of look at the different industries, and I think that's how they are winning. Even though, like, you and I may feel like it's being force-fed, but it's like they're not giving us any options to think about anything else but the constant ads. And I'm wondering what would happen if we played the same game, if we force-feed our direct market to potential buyers and consumers with what we are doing. I mean, do you think that will make a big difference, or would it just be like would it be a nuisance, like how we get the same email from Walmart 10 times a day?
Here's the thing. I think that, one, in order to do that, you have to have a lot of money. Ads are not inexpensive. People advertise to you. They're paying people to send that out to you. So one, you do have to have money in order to advertise. So it could be potentially a nuisance. I mean, I think people get things from Walmart and things like that, organizations like that now, and they're just like, yeah, whatever. It's like, we're so used to it. We've been getting it since we were kids, right? So you're like, oh, it's just part of, we don't, it's not like we know there's not really any way around it. It's like, it's going to be there. And maybe we do have to shop there today. So we might look at it, and it's like, it's not, it's you can't fight it because it's out there. You can join it if you want. If you have the money, you might you might become a nuisance to somebody, but a nuisance that actually succeeds. Or, you might just, you might be appreciated, which would be the better way for you to be received. You can never know how people are going to receive you. They might be like, oh, it's a nuisance. I'm getting another email from this person. But, the smaller artists, I doubt that that's their, like myself, it's not like their intention to be a nuisance. It's like, that's if you're reaching out to someone, it's not, unless you're you're emailing people you knew from, when you were a zillion years ago, and they don't even know who you are anymore, then you might be like, who is this person that's emailing me all over the time? I don't know who it is. But, in general, I think artists, they have to. I mean, even if it is a nuisance, you don't want to bug someone, but you got to make some noise. You got to get into people's faces a little bit. And, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but you can't be shy. You can't be shy and expect to be found or to be noticed. Can't write things in a journal and tuck them away and think, why haven't I been discovered? You have to take those steps. You have to get out there and try to get in front of people and read and try to write other genres. Write poetry, go to a poetry reading, and then when people ask, what else do, you say, hey, I know you just heard me beat on a drum and say some crazy poetry, but I also write children's books and romantic comedy. Don't put me in a box or a bubble, I don't know. You have to find ways to get people's attention. It takes time, and you have to not, if somebody's bothered, they'll tell you, and you'll apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, and not email them again. But I do think you do have to approach some of it the same way they are. But at the same time, you want to be appreciated. So it's also, if you think you're being too much, you're probably being too much.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything else to say on that.
All right. But in today's internet era, much of what management can do for you can actually be done on your own, as I'm sure you're considered and might even do, as you talked about a little bit earlier. Still, you've gone the route of securing your own PR, write-ups, reviews, interviews. So tell us what that has done for you on the independent level so far, and how has it been beneficial to the creative development of your work?
Well, I think as a person, I feel, I'm really do at times, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work. I also feel like I am more in charge of my own destiny, because I'm not out there waiting for somebody to open a door for me. Talking to you is me talking to somebody. Even if only one person talks to me, you might talk to, and even if nobody tune in, which I know lots of people tune in to listen to this, which I'm very excited about. But, when you reach out to one person and one person hears about it and they're really listening to you, they might tell one other person. So, you take charge of your own PR in some ways. That one end, it can be exhausting and it can be frustrating for an artist. And in other ways, it's really, it's important and it's necessary for a lot of artists to take those steps, to put the work in. And if you think about it, let's say all of a sudden everybody knows who you are, you're paved the way for yourself. Maybe you're doing a big interview, but if you've taken the time to speak to other people and learn how to discuss your work, you're going to be more prepared. And that's what they always say, right? Preparation is key. So you're preparing yourself for your future. You're not just walking into your future. You're preparing it, and so that I think is helpful. And also, people can pay a PR company, and I think, or maybe a management company that does do your PR, and that could be great. But I hear a lot of stories from artists too that they're not getting what they expect to get. I hear things, I paid so much money and all they got me was this one thing, and and they're disappointed because they put so much money into it. And I don't want to say, again, one way is particularly right or another, because maybe the one thing they got you was enough that it catapults you forward. You know?
Definitely.
You never know. So it's not that one way is a better approach. Certainly, if you have the right manager and you have the right PR people, they can really change your life. So it's just a matter of what you have access to, what you can, maybe what you have access to, what you can afford possibly. Sometimes it is that, or who you've impressed, you know, and you maybe knocked on the right door and you impressed someone and they want to help you. So I think I answered your question.
Yeah,
I don't recall the complete question now, but I think I did.
Oh, yeah. All right. So what will continue, though, to motivate you to write more books over time? At the heart of it all, what's driving you to do this?
Well, I like storytelling. I love storytelling. For me, a lot of my storytelling passion came from acting and filmmaking and screenplay writing. That was like my original passion. And the film and television world is just as challenging as the publishing world. And so as I hit bumps in the road, I kind of looked for other ways to grow, I guess, that passion, but also to ease a little bit of the tensions I was feeling on my road forward, my journey forward, and some of the things that I hadn't done in a long time, which was like art, which was a big passion of mine as a child. I had really forgotten about, and I had stopped expressing myself as an artist, and then kind of fell back into it. Through an acting role, who was an artist, and I was practicing for this acting role and fell back into one of my passions, and it opened a door for me that has helped me to continue. I think continued down the same. I'm still on the same road. The road has just gotten a little wider, and I have more to help me, more to inspire me to keep going on, keep moving forward, because ultimately I'm just getting better at storytelling. I am doing it in a different way than, I'm not always writing, I'm not always illustrating, I'm not always acting, I'm not always filmmaking, but I do have all of them there to help me get better at storytelling. So I guess having some of those other skill sets have helped me to keep moving forward, because I'm learning something new, and it helps me to feel confident that I'm achieving things in the right direction. But it's challenging. It's any artist, I think, will tell you that the road isn't it isn't all daisies and roses, and there's a lot of bumps on the road, and you have to just kind of keep moving forward and forging your own path. And
right.
And I think every time I feel like, oh, how am I going to keep doing this? I get fed a little bit more, like something happens. I'll draw something else that I'm like, well, I can't stop now. That's too cute. That's too good. Well, I can't stop now. That's too awesome. So, or someone will teach me something new. And I'm like, ooh, now that I could do that, I could conquer the world.
Right.
I could do that. Now there's no stopping me now. I'm pretty much a superhero. I can leap over tall buildings. Yeah, so whatever. It's like skills have a way of helping you feel like, oh, no, I can keep driving down this road because I'm not just driving in a direction with not knowing where I'm going. Like there are other people on the road, and they are, if you kind of stop for a minute, they're ready to help you. They're like, no, this is your road. Let me help you, show you where you're going. Yep. So, you need your friends. I'm doing a lot of actually improv now. So I'm working with a lot of actors in improvisation, and that is also very helpful for storytelling.
Awesome.
So, yeah, when you stay on a path, it might get a little wider, and you're like, oh, am I really still on the same road? That you realize you're just, you're giving yourself a little more room to grow. So I think I answered that again.
You did.
I'm like, okay, good.
All right, as simple and complex as it gets, define being a successful author in your opinion.
Wow. Well, I think any author will want their books to sell. So that is partially and a big part of being successful. You want people to sit down and read your book and have it on their shelf and share it with other people. So that is part of it. But another part of it is knowing that, for you, knowing that it's like, this is a good story. Being proud of your work, being proud of what you wrote. And knowing that as scary as it is to finish something and to get it published and to have it in your hand and sign it and hand it to somebody else, that you did that. And that is a feat in its own. And a lot of people, that is such a big mountain in itself that if you can just climb that mountain, it's huge. So that I think is a success in its own right. And then from there, you realize there's another mountain. Oh, I got to the top. Woo! You're like Rocky, and then you're like, what? Is that another mountain? What is going on? And then you start climbing the next mountain. You're like, yeah. So then you realize, and there's promotion is a big part of it. So, you have to, and any time you listen to people, it's like, oh, the movie's done or the book is written. Now you got to go and talk about it for a year to everybody you know, over and over and over again. And it's the same thing, like whatever it is, it's your book, it's your art. Your art is done. You have a show. Finish your book. You have a book. Now everybody has to know. And you can never stop talking about it. And that can be challenging. So I think being a successful writer is to continuously still be promoting your book. Mm-hmm. It's 6 months later, and it's kind of, you've signed a lot of books. It fizzles out a little bit. Now you put out, maybe you just put something else out. You got to use those opportunities to be like, I need to still be promoting my book. I need to tell them about the first book I wrote and the second book I wrote, and why don't you buy both books? And that can be challenging because you're like, wow, I always sound like I'm tooting my own horn. And how do you bridge that gap between if you're not only an author or whatever you do, so a lot of people, this is something they're doing on the side, how do you bridge the gap between whatever it is that you're doing and your book, and not feel like you're trying to, oh, that was great talking about you and your kid. Have you learned that I've written a book?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so you have to find ways to bring people to what you're doing, and that is an art on its own, which I'm still learning, because I have to be better at it. You have to keep talking about it. You have to keep telling people, and you have to figure out a way to make it that important.
Right.
The things that people buy every day and talk about, it's because not one person made it important, but 100 people or 1,000 people made it important. And without all of those people making that one thing important, it would just be another book on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to then know that, if you're only one person talking about it, try to get 5 more other people to talk about it. Say,
Right.
hey, can you talk about my book for me? And get 5 other people, get 10 other people talking about it and helping you, and continuously, this is my friend. She's like awesome. She writes books and does this, and like, oh, and have people help you if that's not your strong suit. Because there's a lot of artists that they don't like talking about it. And some people love talking about themselves. I know artists that are like, what? I am the best. Everybody should know about me. And then other people find it very challenging. They're just like, I just want you to read it, and, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a whole conversation about it. So I think that's part of being successful, learning how to know that as much time as you put into writing it, you got to put twice as much time into promoting it. And
That's true.
And that is challenging. But I'm kind of just like reinforcing to myself what I have to do. Actually, now saying it, because it's been challenged. That part has been challenging to me. I think I'm better at it than some authors, but I'm still on a learning path of it. So it's learning process. With it. So it's every day. It's like, okay, no, can't be shy. I'm talking about it again to people. And a lot of authors wouldn't probably, a lot of times they don't know how tall that second mountain is, and they don't hear about it because it would be probably too much to take in, while you're writing, because you're like, it's just so much as is. But I'm learning that I probably, there is a method. People say 6 months before you should start promoting your book. I'm now that I'm in the process of writing the second book for Dr-Pookie, I'll probably take more of that 6 months in advance thing with a second book, PR, and follow some of those methods that they suggest. I follow them somewhat, but not to a T. And but yeah, that people are promoting 6 months before, 6 months afterward. So I think that's a really big part of it. And if you can find people that can help you, obviously make your book a success, then that's always great. But first and foremost, you got to write something that you like, and that's like it. Even if nobody else likes it, you got to like what you write. Otherwise, you're never going to finish the book. You have to like what you're doing enough to, like, every time somebody says, okay, but you could probably do this better. And luckily for me, most of the time, in Dr. Pookie, anytime anyone made that suggestion, it was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could. That was right in front of my face. I just didn't see it because I'm, like, looking at 1,000 other things, at once.
Right.
So, but if you like your work, if you like what you're doing enough and you want to finish it enough, you'll go back to correct that thing or edit it or redraw or whatever it is. If you're illustrating your own book, you'll say, okay, I think I could probably make that illustration a little different, or and you'll do it because you want people to enjoy it. So, and you want to look your best, and you want people to perceive you at your best. And sometimes your best means like you need other eyes on it, because you can read something 100 times and miss the simplest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just kind of reading something and it's like you've like memorized it almost, You're like, wait, I read that 100 times and that's been there and I didn't notice it.
Right.
So the success, I think, on a book is really being able to know that it's not going to happen in a bubble. You have to have other people. You need editors. You might need proofreaders. You might need line editors. For this one, I didn't need a line editor, but you might need that.
Right.
And you need someone else saying, hey, looking at your illustrations, looking at your cover, helping, with your marketing, reminding you of the things you didn't do. So it's not good. That's probably, it's a lot of things to make a successful book. A lot of things go into it to get it done, and to make it a success. So, being able to work with other people is imperative, and to try to be gracious when they're offering their opinions. So that's not always easy either, especially when someone's telling you have more work to do. You're like, what? I'm finished. No, you're not. Or maybe that's just me. I'm like, I'm done. Totally done.
Right.
So.
All right. So, website-wise, where can the people go to find your stuff? And where do you want them to look, and where can they connect with you?
They can go to dr-pookie.com, and they can connect with me there. And certainly anybody who has any feedback, if they read the book, can send me an email through there. If you want to purchase it, you can purchase it on the site, or you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or any of the major bookstore dealers and purchase it. And if you like the book, I would really appreciate if you give a review. And on Goodreads is a really great place to find out about new authors. It's free to become a member, and a lot of authors promote their books there. You can get free giveaways there. I did 10 book giveaways for Dr. Pookie through there. But if they go to my website, they'll also learn about different initiatives where I have a campaign called Kids First, where I'm giving away some free books, so they might have an opportunity to get involved in that. And yeah, so you can go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble are probably the quickest way, but any of the major bookstores will have it, and if they don't, you can always ask them to get the book, and then that will be helpful for me, because people will be like, why? Oh, who's this author? Who's this Izzy Church, and who's Dr. Pookie? And then hopefully they'll call the publishing company and the distributor, and the book will be at that store then. So, and yeah.
All right, awesome. So we are at the segment that everybody loves. And after the music break, we'll have a chance to catch our breaths and everything. It will be time for our usual tradition. It is called the hot seat. And our fans absolutely love this part of the segment. And of course, along with the actual interview, but the audience get to hear either some vocals, maybe a poem, inspirational speech, written work, spoken word, freestyle rap, recite lyrics, jokes, stories, or live instruments from our special guests. Well, you never know what these creative minds and vessels will produce in the spotlight. And tonight we'll find out if Izzy Church have what it takes to be put on the spot, a test of her true artistry, and maybe even some hidden talents. Are you up for it, Miss Church?
Okay, the hot seat. I'm up for it.
All right, so let's cut to some music. Let's go with Seraphim, You Never Love Me.
I was too proud to see the truth. I wrapped myself in you. I was your possession. You were my obsession. After all the times I cried, I held it all inside. I was your trophy, but I could not break free. You had me wrapped around your heart. I never dreamed we'd break apart. You took away my sense of self, and now
All right, and we are back again. That was Seraphim, You Never Loved Me. All right, Miss Izzy Church, you are in our hot seat. What do you have for us?
Well, I have here. Well, I can read a portion of the book, if that would be good for you.
That is great.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see, jump into the second chapter, Talk of the Forest. I dug out an old issue of BQ magazine and shouted, "Watch out, ladies. According to BQ magazine, I am the most eligible bachelor bear in the little royal forest." I flipped open the magazine and read aloud, "Dr-Pookie is a bear to be reckoned with. His good looks, witty personality, and enormous bank account have tied him to some of the loveliest female bears in the forest. Good news, Bearsos. Dr. Pookie is single again and on the hunt." I sighed aloud as I stared at the handsome photo of myself on the cover. Or at least I used to be good looking, I sighed. This picture was taken so long ago I can hardly remember the last time I looked so sharp. The truth is, I'm not much of a bear magnet anymore. But I am back in the news. Who knew that buying a super expensive modern-day retro bear cave with salmon wallpaper, contemporary appliances, and an electric fireplace would cause such cosmopolitan gossip in the little royal forest? Listen to what the editor of Bear State Weekly wrote about me. "I've got to hand it to Dr. Pookie. It took real nerve to buy such an expensive tavern during this shaky economy. I would never have imagined buying something so extravagant. But Dr. Pookie took the plunge, and look at him now. Pookie's bear cave just tripled in value. Ka-ching, ka-ching." Bear State Weekly. Should I keep reading?
It's on you. We are here with you.
Okay, I'll read a little bit more. I grinned as I gazed down at the encouraging appraisal. "At least one animal in the forest is making some sense," I snorted. "Most of the animals can't think of one nice thing to say about my new lavish cave," I growled. "Just read this recent critique in Rabbit Fever. That eccentric old fool has gone bear crazy. Buying that souped-up man-bear cave at the edge of the little royal forest was just another way for Pookie Bear to pick up on some young, unexpecting so. Dr. Pookie, you ought to be ashamed of yourself." Rabbit Fever. I shook my head as I stomped around my bear cave, mumbling to myself, "Those pesky rabbits have had it out for me for ages. Grrr. Every time I read that nonsense, I get angry. Over the years, I've learned how to shrug off all the negative gossip, but that was a total diss. The nerve of some rabbits. The worst part about it is that some of the squirrels in the forest are listening to that rabbit's opinion of me. Listen to this ridiculous gobbledygook written about me in Squirrely Magazine. Bad News Bears is at it again. Dr. Pookie is nothing but an overgrown man-bear looking to relive his youth. Grow up, Dr. Pookie." I ferociously roared. "Bad News Bears? Darn squirrels need to learn how to mind their own squizness. I bet that squirrel's living in some dull, damp, and dusty tree nest just waiting for a bear like me to protect her. Well, she can kiss that dream goodbye." My face turned beet red with anger as I stared at my image on the cover of Squirrely Magazine. I was about to claw it to pieces when the bird outside my cave began to chirp. "Chirp, chirp." "Now what?" I bellowed as I peered outside my cave's window. The bird living next door is always chirping about something. Chirp, chirp. That's just terrific, I thought to myself. I bet if I don't apologize to Mrs. Bell, she is going to alert the editor of the Birdie Post. I ran to the back of my cave and yanked open the window and shouted, "I'm sorry for growling, Mrs. Bell." Mrs. Bell flew up to my window, cocked her tiny bird head, and chirped loudly. "Chirp, chirp." I sighed and muttered, "Yes, I know I was too loud. That is why I opened the window to say, I'm sorry." Mrs. Bell chirped louder as her wings fluttered. "Chirp, chirp." I scratched my head and uttered, "Okay, yes. I promise I will be quieter. I know you have baby birds, Mrs. Bell. You won't have any more distractions from me." Mrs. Bell put her wings on her hips and indignantly chirped yet again. "Chirp." "Yes, of course," I shrieked. "It will never happen again." I shut the window and went back to the unlit fireplace where all the magazines and newspapers were spread out on the floor of my cave, and I huffed. "Gee, some birds are so particular." But Mrs. Bell does make a good point. At my age, I can't afford to get worked up. I knew I shouldn't have taken out all of those old magazines. I moaned aloud as I stared at the young and handsome picture of myself on the cover of BQ magazine. Things sure are different now. I'm not as young and agile as I once was. My back hurts, my knees hurt, even my paws hurt. Grr, I need to sit down. I sat down on a fancy new log I had custom tailored with camouflage padding from seat cushions. I shook my head and muttered, at least now you know why I moved all the way up here. Darn squirrels are so nosy. Had that squirrel printed that negative write-up about me 10 years ago, I would have marched right down Bear Mountain and taught that nasty squirrel a lesson. Grr. Oh, who am I kidding? I really care about my animal friends, and I hate it when they write negative comments about me. Hashtag give a bear a hug. And then it goes into the next chapter. So the opening of the book, you hear about Dr-Pookie. He's gotten a lot of negative press because in the forest, because he's bought this very expensive, lavish cave, and he's moved up to the top of the mountain, and he's kind of separated himself from all of his forest friends. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of his friends are kind of dissing him. He's an older bear now, but still, he doesn't like to be dissed. So he's like, getting a little grumpy about all the negative press he's getting. So he decides to throw a party and invite all of his friends up to his man bear cave and show him a good time, and then let him know, hey, guys, I'm not so bad. He tells a story about when he was younger, and he reminds them of all the fun they used to have together. And by the time they leave, they're like, hey, bro, you're my bear. You're my Pookie, okay? So, he has to kind of reel his friends back in. But this is kind of just an introduction to show, he's a bear that's always in the news. He's always got people's attention. That I started in the second chapter, so I kind of jumped into it a little bit. But just to give you an idea, it's he's older, and he's even causing a ruckus when he's a little bit older. So you can imagine him as a young mischievous bear if he's on the cover of Bear Q magazine. BQ. Bear Q.
BQ.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So I try to bring in, that's a lot of the people that they like, that it's got a lot of realism in it, but it's, realism in the bear world. I'd use a lot of social media stuff in it. Because kids are surrounded by social media now,
Yes.
Everything's hashtags and Instagram, and they know about it. So there's no use in ignoring it. And I think that for the younger kids, it's one thing, it's a bear, but when you get a little older, you want to feel like that it's in a voice that you recognize, and that you're being seen as someone who understands the world around them. So this is a little introduction into, we know that you're about your Instagram and your social media, and you're on there more than us, probably texting and tweeting and all that stuff. So, or maybe not, but a lot of kids are pretty hashtag savvy.
Yeah.
So that was a portion of chapter 2, and I thank you for letting me read it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for reading it. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. All right, folks out there, that concludes our interview for tonight. We're just about out of time here. So I just want to close the show by saying thank you guys, as always, for checking out the podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. All episodes are available for free download via our server at Spreaker.com/Only1Media Group, over at iTunes, YouTube, the app called Podcast Addict, and as well as our website, which again is onlyonemediagroup.com, and that goes for every single show that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music, a guest, or send something for us to play, make sure you email it to me at theradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. Here's my disclaimer. We are genre free. We do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay but facts. And actually, you can scratch all that because all of the opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show. It's something you got to deal with. Not just kidding. On behalf of myself, Dini Mussolini, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word. Sharing is caring. Feel free to bootleg this interview and share it amongst your friends. And also, special thanks to our guest tonight, Izzy Church, for joining us. We've stepped our game up just so that you guys and our guests will have the best experience here on our show. So, just one last thing I would like to leave you guys with. Just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace and have a good night.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. Co-hosted by the Vigilantes Banditti. Call in to join the mix. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.